I'm 13 and my favorite movie is Moana.
Hi, I'm Chelsea, and I'm 15, and my favorite movie is Little Mermaid.
My name is Joe Birdsong. My favorite Disney movie, I would say, is probably, oh gosh, just based off how many times the tape got worn out, The Jungle Book. Probably because of the music, I'd say. Just because the music was real jazzy and different. Yeah, I previously in college worked at Disneyland. I was a parade float driver. So I drove the floats in the parade, hence the name of the job title.
My name is Pearl Birdsong. My favorite Disney movie is probably Bambi. I think the reason why is because it was the very first movie I had ever seen outside of my home, where my mother actually took us to a huge theater, and so we saw something that was so much larger than life, all the colors on the screen. And I liked the story that it involved a lot of animals. Now I was probably 5 years old, 6 years old, so I don't know that I grasped any particular plot, except there was a tragic scene in it where the mother died. But what I liked about the movie is that it introduced us to a lot of different animals with individual characters and individual personalities. And so you felt like you were interacting with something, and the story was very secondary. It was just a lot of eye candy that was very remarkable to me at the time.
I like The Little Mermaid because it's like about a mermaid who wants to be on land, where people usually want to be a mermaid, but it's from her perspective of people.
I like it because it's under the sea.
It's considered a big film in the history of Disney as a business because animation was starting to fade. A lot of the movies before, like the Rescuers, weren't as big as other movies had been. So Little Mermaid was considered a return to form for Disney, like the classic animation, the big musical, the princess musical, and all that. So I know that. And for a while, it was hailed kind of almost as a more female-friendly character, whereas Snow White and Cinderella were more literally, slaves to be rescued. Ariel was more proactive. So it was considered a step forward, though there's going to be flaws with that. That's what I know about it. I remember you watched it all the time when you were little. Like a lot. That was your thing. All right. So that's my knowledge and experience with it. I know Ursula was modeled after a drag queen. Yeah.
I like how the genie is funny and makes the movie funny, because isn't that what Robin Williams?
I like how they took a regular day object like a rug and made it into a flying rug. So it just adds like a little magic touch to it, a movie.
Why do your explanations have to be so much better than mine? I like Mulan because it brings culture into movies for kids. What it guides the Huns.
I like Mulan because it breaks the stereotypes of women so that women look powerful.
I don't really like Disney films in general, the cartoon types. They didn't come around till probably I had my daughter in the 70s. And I noticed that every single one had to do with a girl becoming a princess, or wanting to be a princess, or needing to be a princess, and wanting to get the boy. And it was always the same regurgitated story over and over again. And these girls were always the prettiest with the big crazy doe eyes and the hair that was perfect. And same with the boys. In those days it didn't have a lot of diversity of color, and we are a family of color. I noticed that the girls would become very silly watching them, and not in the same way that they would watching anything else on television. A good example would be like Sesame Street, where you don't have sexualized characters. You don't even have people generally, except for the few humans that are on the show. All you have are personalities, and a child learns to identify with this or that and what they'd like or not like in a personality. In the Disney films, I feel that kids were being instructed how to behave in front of each other, in front of the opposite sex. And I always felt that women, the girls, came out on the short end of the stick. I was a single mother, and this was of grave importance to me because I was raising a daughter all by myself. So her prime example was a mother who did everything for her by myself without help from any man. And it wasn't easy, and she grew up seeing that. And yet, from watching all of the Disney movies in her life, she grew up to want a man to save her. What I also notice about the Disney films, and it's the common thread, is that the guys, the boys, the princes, what have you, they don't seem to have to do anything. They don't seem to have to just try to get a girl or what have you. The girl always pursues them. She wants them. With some few examples, it seems like that's always the common theme. And I don't think that's right, because little boys watch these movies too. And I think in the case of my son, who came in the mid-'80s, he kind of grew up thinking that girls would be pursuing him. So when it actually started to happen for him as a teenager, he thought that was very normal. And I think he kind of had it in his head that he was better than girls, and that was just his entitlement because I'm a male, and that's just wrong. It is just wrong.
My dear, sweet child, that's what I do. It's what I live for, to help unfortunate merfolk like yourself.
I remember the first time I saw this, my first impression was that was a man. But of course, she's Ursula. She's supposed to be a female. But if you look at her shape, she looks like a drag queen. The exaggerated makeup, the lipstick, the eyeshadow, and the severity of her facial features. I thought this was a drag queen. And then you put that with the music, it's like burlesque. It's the sort of thing you see on Broadway, and it's generally adults only, progressively thinking adults, not even your basic, middle America entertainment. And yet this is on a Disney film. Everybody's so repulsed by her. Everybody. The Little Mermaid is repulsed. These little things, whatever they are, the poor unfortunate souls. Everybody's so afraid of her. And what I think, and this is crazy, but as a Hispanic woman, I come from a world where a lot of my aunts and so forth, they use a lot of eye makeup. It's part of the culture. And yet, this is becoming an ugly thing for everybody to see. We're not mainstream that way.
She looks like a drag queen. Okay, I get it. Her voice always used to scare me. And I'd cry at this part.
She scares me.
Her face gives me nightmares.
She looks so scary.
She looks like she has a lot of sins.
Sins? Ugh, I hate those.
Oh,
Those
make
eels.
They make like the bad people look fatter than like the innocent princesses.
Oh yeah. She looks old. It's like true.
What's true?
Like the girl wants to be thinner and the guy wants to have muscles. It's true.
And I couldn't pay the price, and I'm afraid I had to
She manipulates people.
That's weird.
You had your books, your pretty face, and don't underestimate the importance of body language.
You notice she's talking in a much deeper voice than the rest of the movie.
Jeez.
That's better.
Honestly, I think we should talk about the cultural stereotypes more.
More about myself.
You're tall, dark,
Go on.
and your beard is so twisted.
So this is a major seduction going on here. This is teaching little girls how to seduce. And she has some kind of ulterior motive going on here, right? So, she's using her sexuality to manipulate this overpowering male. That sucks. I never realized that before.
This is the movie that came out in the shadow of the first Gulf War. And when we need to be opening hearts and minds about different cultures, particularly the Muslim faith, this movie comes out. Are you kidding me? With a flying carpet. Oh man, you can tell by the way that she's seducing him because she's wearing red. That's always a classic Hollywood trope, the lady in red.